The murder mystery genre is an absolute staple in the movie world that's been around forever. If a film entertains you and makes you a little smarter, you've got a winner on your hands. The finest murder mysteries recognize that you want to solve them. If they're directed by a true genre auteur, they'll even purposefully include some red herrings to confuse the spectator. All the signs are in plain sight if you pay attention, from Alfred Hitchcock's black and white thrillers to recent masterpieces like Knives Out. Fortunately for you, we'll assist you in starting your quest. In this video, we'll be looking at the 11 best murder mystery movies of all time that you need to watch.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Number 11, Gosford Park.
It's a detective story. Murder in the middle of the night, a lot of guests for the weekend, everyone's a suspect. You know, that sort of thing.
Set in the 1930s at a hunting resort for the rich and famous, Altman takes an epic ensemble cast. Smith, Michael Gambon, Kristen Scott Thomas, Richard E. Grant, Charles Dance, and many, many more. The writing and character work in this murder mystery are so good that it's easy to forget that the actual murder doesn't happen until more than halfway through the film. And by the time Stephen Fry's delightful, bumbling Inspector Thompson gets on the scene, you'll be as perplexed as he is about who has done it. Perhaps it isn't the classic murder mystery structure to have the murder occur early in the story, but Robert Altman's satire of the English class system isn't your typical criminal thriller. Number 10, Clue.
Murder. But only one of these suspects is the murderer.
Jonathan Lynn's Clue, which was released in theaters with 3 distinct endings, may not be the finest murder mystery ever filmed, but it may be the most classic crime drama movie ever made. Lynn's film is a twist-filled, hilariously comedic rendition of the eponymous board game, aka Cluedo in the UK, with 6 blackmail victims gathered in the mansion home of Mr. Body, Lee Ving, their collective tormentor. When Mr. Body dies, the 6 are left attempting to figure out who killed him as the corpse count grows. A game ensemble led by the inimitable Tim Curry, who brings so much energy to campy butler Wadsworth that the star later recalled to Empire having blood pressure through the roof, takes turns stealing scenes from one another as they land zinger after zinger. And in the midst of it all, the story manages to be a truly gripping tale. In any case, the film has had a far greater impact than anybody could have predicted, similar to what impact Knives Out has had, Clue had back in the day. Number 9, Memories of Murder. Long before the Academy Award-winning film Parasite made Bong Joon-ho famous, the South Korean director created what many consider to be his finest work, Memories of Murder. Based on the first serial killings in South Korean history, the film forgoes genre convention in favor of focusing on Park Do-man, Song Kang-ho, and Seo Tae-yoon, Kim Sang-kyung, 2 young detectives tasked with capturing the perpetrator. The movie's hauntingly gorgeous camera work focuses on the way nothing, and no one, is left untouched by tragedies like these, from the first picture of a leaf of corn-hanging corpse beneath a golden sky. Suspects are thrashed, red herrings are swallowed whole, and the cost of mistakes is paid in corpses. It's bleakly humorous in Bong's signature way, but also deadly serious, a cinematic autopsy on a desensitized culture. Number 8, Scream.
Do you like scary movies?
What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
The first film in Wes Craven's legendary 1990s slasher genre follows Sidney Prescott, Neve Campbell, and her pals as a masked murderer terrorizes their tiny California town. Scream is more than just your average violent slasher flick thanks to clever language and multiple meta-references. Even devoted fans of the horror film genre may succumb to jump scares and curiosity about who might be hidden under the ghost face mask. This movie rises toward a really frightening collection of discoveries that all teeter on the verge of utter insanity. The fact that Scream's 5 sequels have left a reputation for their whodunits, as well as their meta-commentary and brilliant casting, demonstrates how seriously the franchise takes its murder mystery tag. Some of the cast includes Drew Barrymore, Courtney Cox, Neve Campbell, and David Arquette. Number 7, Rebecca.
Said that Englishmen have strange tastes. You'll certainly have your work cut out as mistress of Vanderley. To be perfectly frank with you, my dear, I can't see you doing it. You haven't the experience. You haven't the faintest idea of what it means to be a great lady.
Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca, a brilliant adaptation of Daphne du Maurier's same-named Gothic melodrama novel, lowers the murder mystery to its most uncovered parts without sacrificing any of the genre's weight or impact. Joan Fontaine is lovely as the forenameless Mrs. De Winter, who finds herself at the whim of her new husband Maxim's dead wife when she moves into Manderley, his luxurious home. Hitchcock skillfully harnesses the essential components of a classic murder mystery: suspicion, tension, and revelation, as Mrs. De Winter and Maxim's relationship strains under the constant scrutiny of both Rebecca and her ever-loyal maid, Mrs. Danvers, a scary Judith Anderson. But it isn't until the stunning owner in Maxim's boathouse that the whole thing comes together, reminding you why Hitch won Best Picture for this film. Some of the key roles include Joan Fontaine, Laurence Olivier, and Judith Anderson as cast members. Number 6, Knives Out.
I suspect foul play. I have eliminated no suspects.
Rian Johnson rose to new heights with the all-star original murder mystery, Knives Out, which introduced the world to the next great fictional investigator, Benoit Blanc. And we're so thrilled he did. Taking the Agatha Christie formula, big old house, a sizable ensemble of recognizable societal archetypes, and everyone gathered around for the big monologue and gasp-inducing reveal finale, and modernizing it in every way for the generation we live in, Johnson changed the game for murder mysteries in the same way he did for Star Wars. Daniel Craig is outstanding as Chris Evans plays Ransom Drysdale delightfully against type. Ana de Armas's star is born as the wonderfully layered Marta. And the entire beautifully shot, wonderfully scored endeavor plays like gangbusters as we learn what happened to Christopher Plummer's mystery novelist, Harlan Thrombey. Number 5, The Conversation.
I've been involved in some work that I think will be used to hurt these two young people.
During the making of his Godfather franchise, Francis Ford Coppola released this tense, paranoid thriller about a lone wolf eavesdropping expert named Harry Call, played inimitable by Gene Hackman, whose work in bugging people leads him to become involved in the mysterious murder of an executive in a traffic accident. The Conversation, which weaves in themes of privacy, surveillance, personal responsibility, and more, feels as relevant and important now as it did then, as Harry tries to figure out where to draw the line between performing his job and doing what's right. Harrison Ford and John Cazale co-star with Hackman in the film, and the last sequence, which depicts Harry playing his saxophone among the debris of his home that he tore apart hunting for the bug listening to him, with the camera swinging, is pure cinema. Number 4, Seven.
You like what you do for a living? These things you see?
In this murder mystery, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are investigators on the hunt for a serial murderer who chooses his victims based on the 7 deadly sins. Seven is a dark, gritty, and fascinating criminal story, one of the most merciless films ever made in the Hollywood mainstream. It is where David Fincher's career actually begins, and it's natural that a filmmaker who self-identifies as cynical should begin with a film that despises human nature, butchers the good in several ways, and even has a tiny veneration for its monstrous killer. The plot follows the classic couple as they seek a serial murderer, Kevin Spacey, in a dark realm of urban violence. Mills and Somerset come to the conclusion that each murder correlates to one of the Bible's 7 deadly sins, and that the killer is attempting to preach his message of Christian virtue through his killings and the publicity they receive. Even after being captured, the murderer has one more trick up his sleeve, a horrifying gesture calculated to provoke Mills into crossing the boundary between righteous justice and wicked retribution. Number 3, The Girl with Dragon Tattoo.
You were here that day.
A terrible day. Searching and finding. I never found a body. Was it spontaneous? Was it calculated? Did she know something someone wished she didn't?
Another David Fincher's masterpiece, this murder mystery follows the story of Mikkel Blomkvist, Daniel Craig, a discredited journalist, and tattooed computer hacker Lisbeth Salander, Rooney Mara, as they strive to solve a 40-year-old murder case of a woman. The two soon discover more than they bargained for. Based on Stieg Larsson's best-selling crime novel, this new English-language version is sleeker, smoother, and sexier than its Swedish predecessors. It's a strong, tremendously confident film, which makes the savage violence all the more difficult to bear. Fincher is certainly a more assured director than Niels Arden Oplev, who did the 2009 Swedish film. The cast of the film includes Rooney Mara, Daniel Craig, Robin Wright, and many more. Number 2, Rear Window. It's not simple to create a heart-pounding thriller that takes place almost exclusively in one room and from a single point of view, but Alfred Hitchcock isn't known as the master of suspense for nothing. Rear Window showcases how, due to a broken leg, reporter L.B. Jeffries becomes interested in the lives of the people in the nearby apartment complex and finally believes one of them has perpetrated a heinous murder. Hitchcock had dabbled in minimalist, play-like setups previously, but Rear Window may be his crowning effort, demonstrating that he could produce almost nauseating levels of stress and suspense, even while working within the most basic narrative constraints. Not to mention that its themes of urban isolation and voyeurism are much more poignant in the post-pandemic world, now that we've all had our own experiences of being confined to our houses, with little more to do for amusement than look out the window for too long. Number 1. Laura.
Murder is my favorite crime. I write about it regularly. And I know you'll have to visit everyone on your list of suspects.
Laura, directed by Otto Preminger, combines swooning romance, smoldering noir, and suspenseful murder mystery as it follows Detective Mark McPherson, Dana Andrews, as he strives to find the perpetrator of the beautiful, admired, and coveted eponymous woman. Laura, played by Jean Tierney, is the type of lady that everyone, even Detective McPherson, can't help but fall in love with, which means there are a slew of suspects in her death. She shines in a world of humorous impersonation, and the film is filled by a stately, wistful sorrow that the detective will never meet the lady he falls for, only solve her murder. The film's stunning black and white cinematography and sinister, swelling musical theme compensate for some contrived twists, as do the cast performances, particularly Clifton Webb as jealous columnist and narrator Waldo Lydecker, and Vincent Price as Laura's fiancée Shelby Carpenter.